Hello everyone, today I'm going to introduce you to the Black Lives Matter and its impact on human rights. So, Black Lives Matter is an international social movement formed in the United States in 2013 dedicated to fighting racism and anti-black violence, especially in the form of police brutality. Black Lives Matter activists have held large and influential protests in cities across the United States as well as internationally. A decentralized grassroots movement, Black Lives Matter is led by activists in local chapters who organize their own campaigns and programs. The chapters are affiliated with the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, a non-profit civil rights organization that is active in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. Black Lives Matter was co-founded as an online movement using the hashtag Black Lives Matter on social media by three Black community organizers, Patrice Cullors, Alicia Garza, and Opal Tometi. They formed Black Lives Matter after George Zimmerman, a man of German and Peruvian descent, was acquitted on charges stemming from his fatal shooting of Trayvon Martin, an unarmed black teenager. Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, had seen Martin walking in his neighborhood and called the police because he thought Martin looked suspicious. Although police told Zimmerman not to do nothing, he thought Martin got into an argument with him and shot and killed him. Zimmerman remained free for weeks after the shooting but was finally charged with second-degree murder and arrested in April after demonstrations demanding his prosecution were held in cities across the United States. At his trial, more than a year later, Zimmerman claimed that he had acted in self-defense. His acquittal in July 2030 was widely perceived as a miscarriage of justice and led to further nationwide protests. Black Lives Matter has four main assumptions. They say about themselves: we are expansive, we are a collective of liberates who believe in an inclusive and special movement. We affirm the lives of black, queer, and trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all black lives along the gender spectrum. We are working for a world where black lives are no longer systematically targeted for demise. We affirm our humanity, their contribution to his society, and our resilience in the face of deadly oppression. Black Lives Matter says it draws inspiration from various social movements such as the Black Power movement, Black feminism of the 1980s, Pan-Africanism, Apartheid movement, LGBT social movement, and Rents on Wall Street. However, some protesters try to distinguish them from older generation black activists such as Al Sharpton because of their links with the Democratic Party. The Black Lives Matter movement has many goals. Black Lives Matter activists seek to draw attention to the many ways in which black people are treated unfairly in society and the ways in which institutions, laws, and policies help to perpetuate that unfairness. The movement has fought racism through such means as political action, letter writing campaigns, and non-violent protests. Black Lives Matter seeks to combat police brutality, the over-policing of minority neighborhoods, and the abuses committed by for-profit jails. Its efforts have included calls for better training for police and greater accountability for police misconduct. Black Lives Matter activists have also called for defunding the police, that is reducing police department budget and investing the freed up funds in community social services, such as mental health and conflict resolution programs. Black Lives Matter activists have also worked on voter registration and get out the vote campaigns in black communities. In addition, Black Lives Matter programs have celebrated black artists and writers. The Black Lives Matter movement expanded in 2014 after the police killings of two unarmed black men, Eric Garner and Michael Brown. In 2020, George Floyd, an unarmed black man, was pronounced dead after a white police officer knelt on Floyd's neck for several minutes, despite Floyd's repeated protests that he could not breathe. Wide circulation of bystander videos of Floyd's last minute triggered massive demonstrations in cities throughout the United States and across the globe. The tragedy swayed US public opinion in favor of the Black Lives Matter movement while drawing wide attention to the problem of outrage arson in American society. Now I would like to ask a decisive question and try to answer it with the right arguments. Does Black Lives Matter have a global impact on the human rights? I would like to say that, of course, while the Black Lives Matter movement has its roots in the US, it has garnered widespread international support with local demonstrations in at least 60 countries and across every continent except Antarctica. This is due to the issues of racism and discrimination being familiar in almost every society. Like in the US, governments around the world have for too long ignored the issues of systemic racial injustice. Ethnic minorities have been repeatedly denied equitable access to opportunities, services, and fundamental human rights. While many of these localized protests began in solidarity with their American counterparts, many have taken on new forms and led to different debates as they adapt to different national contexts. Now I would like to show you some arguments supporting my hypothesis. So, the first, the permeating issues of racism become a focal issue in one of the foremost institutions of higher learning, Oxford University. Over the years, it has come under harsh criticism for failing to address institutional racism adequately. A student who chose to remain anonymous pointed out how the university had alienated its black students while at the same time provided support to the Black Lives Matter movement. Amid these conditions, a campaign to remove the statue of Cecil Rhodes, and Cecil Rhodes was a British colonialist and white supremacist situated within the campus of the Oriel College began in 2015. Rhodes had played a crucial role in the colonial enterprise in South Africa. Modeled after a similar campaign that took place at the University of Cape Town, the slogan of Rhodes must fall became the rallying cry of the demonstrators. The protests, however, dwindled after the students graduated that year. The death of George Floyd renewed the campaign. It ultimately resulted in the college voting to remove the statue, which for centuries had opposed the racist legacy of colonialism. Secondly, in 2016, the U.S. Department of Justice announced the findings in two separate investigations related to Ferguson. One report found a pattern of civil rights violation on the part of the Ferguson Police Department. A second report determined that the evidence examined in the independent federal investigation into the fatal shooting of Michael Brown does not support federal civil rights charges against Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. 2 weeks later, the department and the city of Ferguson formally announced an agreement. The announcement resolved a pending federal lawsuit against Ferguson and addressed a range of issues including bias-free police and court practices protecting all individuals. First, amended rights and reorienting Ferguson's use of force policy. Black Lives Matter continues to pursue policy solutions beyond the events of Ferguson. Thirdly, across industries, company leadership is being held accountable for racist remarks and discriminatory actions. Executives from Bon Appetit and CrossFit and other companies have resigned due to racist remarks or allegations of racist company culture. Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian resigned from the company's board after 15 years and asked his seat to go to a black candidate. Ohanian was replaced by Michael Sable, the Teach company's first black board member. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights recognizes, in accordance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that the ideal of free human beings enjoying civil and political freedom and freedom from fear and want can only be achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy civil and political rights, as well as economic, social, and cultural rights. The Convention on Civil and Political Rights and Universal Declaration of Human Rights and subsequent human rights legislation guarantee the right to life, liberty, and security of person. They also guarantee that no one be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, torture, or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Here I present the sources that I used, and thank you so much for your attention.